the community hotline for the community, by the community. I'm your host, Bob Thang, and today we got Erica G on the interview.
Thank you, thank you,
Erica,
thank you.
why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Erica Golden. I live in Los Angeles. What about you? What do you? What would you like to know about me?
Anything you want to share with a kid, maybe a high school kid?
I'm a runner. I in sales, and I have a background in music.
Got it. Love that. Love that. Let's go into the first question of the day. Let's get super deep with it. What are three defining moments in your life and how did they impact you?
Let's start with the easy one. Training for and completing the Los Angeles Marathon last year. That was my first marathon. The half marathon that was a part of the training regimen was also my first half marathon, and I only run a 5K race prior to that whole experience.
Got it. And how did that impact you?
It's it's a real for people who don't know, a marathon is a 26.2-mile race. So it's not something you just do. It's a major accomplishment. And even people who run a lot don't like you only run a few, maybe more if you're more experienced, depending on how hard you race the race, as opposed to just running it. You only do so many marathons in a year because the recovery time for running a marathon is so massive. So just to, I'm saying this just sort of to conceptualize how big of a deal it is to run a marathon. Runners like to joke because people often say, "Oh, I'm running a 5K marathon." It's like, no, you're running a 5K race. A marathon is 26.2 miles, Um, a little bit of a background is that I got into running a few years back when I first moved to downtown Los Angeles. I had moved downtown to LA. Sometimes when you're in your 30s, your friends start having kids, and like basically you might have social circles, and all of a sudden in a very short period of time those social circles can change dramatically, which can be kind of hard if you've had a really really tight knit social community that's been a part of your life for like a decade, and then to just watch it like change, like it sort of felt like it was like I was cheated. I was like, what do you mean, like you're not gonna always be with me forever? Like you've been my everything for like the last 10 years. Not everything, but you get the idea, right? And I've talked to other friends that are, I don't know why this came as a surprise to me, but I'm like, yeah, of course, like you have friends that like, and I'm not saying all of my friends who have kids have disappeared, but like it definitely was like a shock that it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to start again, like creating my social circles. And so I moved downtown, and my office and my apartment were 2 blocks away. And there was a running group that literally met in the block in between the two. And I kept on walking by and being like, I look like I could fit in there. um, and so I got involved and realized I was completely out of my league really quickly. um, I I really couldn't run a mile at that point. Like I remember spending time on the treadmill in my building until I could like run a mile. Like I think I didn't go for the first time until I'd finished like a mile on the treadmill by myself. And even then, like I still sometimes there are days where I go and I feel like I am very, let me rephrase that. There are lots of people in this group that are still way, way, way faster than me. It has been surprising to me to find out some of those faster people still haven't run a marathon. So it's a slightly different, like training for distance and training for speed is not necessarily the same thing. Basically, a friend was putting together a 16-week training program for the LA Marathon, and knowing that like the first week would be somewhat easier, and then it would get a little harder, and it would get a little harder over a period of 16 weeks. And so I just showed up for the first week of training. Like basically it's a series of long runs on Saturdays, and then they give you like your homework on all the runs and miles and exercises you need to do between one week and next. And so I just showed up, and then I did what they told me to do slowly. And I just kept them coming back every week. And I made each of my long runs. It went from like 6 miles to 8. Like there's different methodologies that people download and follow off the internet, but it was some sort of pattern of like 6 miles on a Saturday, 8 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles, 7 miles, 12 miles, and then a half marathon. And so I'm not even sure if I knew I was going to do it. I just showed up the first week and I did the work and I didn't die. So I showed up the next week and I still didn't die. And I showed up the next week and I still didn't die. Some weeks I felt like dying, but no, the weekend, yeah, people told me after because I finished the 20-mile run. For some reason, like you have good runs and you have bad runs. Like the 14-mile, I did not look that good after finishing the first. I think it was the second 14-mile run, and then but the 20 I was okay. People are like, you don't even look that bad. Like that's really good. And then after the 20-mile run, you start. It's called tapering, and basically the theory behind training for a marathon is that it's better to be underprepared and rested than overtrained and tired because you're more prone to injury. So basically you train up and your miles increase from week to week to week to week to week. And then you get to the run that's 20 miles. And then you start to tape over a period of like 2, 3, or 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly. And I didn't really go into it with the mindset that I was going to run it. And I just kept on showing up every week and was like, okay, I didn't die, so I'll keep on going. I was told somewhere between like the first or second week that and because I had the schedule of the long runs, like the distances, and was told that your long run should never be more than 40% of your totally weekly mileage. And clearly I'm self-employed, which is why I had the time to do this. I would like, so that mean, there were weeks where I had to do 25 to 40 miles a week. And that is, like, how do you, I was not at the level even then where I could do an 8-mile run and like not need a lot of recovery, but I knew I needed to get in a certain amount of miles. So I would do like 3 miles early in the morning and 2 miles in the afternoon, and then another 3 or 4 miles in the evening. Well, by the time you're done doing all that, you've just got it in 8 miles, right? So, and I just did this every day for a really long time. It was a big deal. It was a big deal to finish the marathon. I had some people who hadn't been following that I'd been doing the training because there's this thing called Strava. It's like Facebook for runners basically, and you can see what you're doing in training and different things and stuff. And I had somebody who was kind of like, so Erica, have you been training? Like, I guess he just didn't realize that I'd been doing it. And I said, well, I did one 18-mile run so far in 2:16. He's like, oh, okay, you're ready. And I had another person who was like, Erica, have you been doing that? I don't remember what it was, but it was sort of implied like he was basically. I went back to him later. I'm like, you can follow me on Strava. I've been putting in the work. And at that point in time, he knew I was teasing him. And he's like, no, I believe you. I'm not actually on Strava. It's too stressful. Like having people watch me, like how fast I'm going, it puts undue pressure on me. And this is someone who runs like a 6-mile, like multiple, who can easily run 100 miles in a month, every month. So
So basically, it was your first defining moment was you finishing your first marathon and all.
Well, that was recently, so I'm old enough that I wouldn't say that was my first defining moment, but I'd say it was a big. I think it's a big deal.
What's your second one?
Oof. The marathon one was so easy. The first thing that pops to mind is moving to Los Angeles. I moved out here this summer after I finished my master's degree. In a former life, I was a classical musician. I mean, I still am to some degree. My degrees are in clarinet. I have a bachelor and a master's in clarinet. And at the time, I still wanted to pursue a career as a clarinetist. And I don't know what my mother thought I was going to do after getting 2 degrees in clarinet. And I don't know why she thought I would pursue. I don't know why she thought I wouldn't continue to pursue this after I finished a master's degree. So she didn't really approve of me moving to Los Angeles. And everyone was sort of say that again.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from DC suburbs, and I went to school in Philadelphia.
Got it.
So when I was done with my master's degree, I basically packed up all my luggage. I think I had like 2 large suitcases and like 5 different clarinets, and I packed up a bunch of stuff in boxes, which my dad agreed to store in the basement until I had an address. And then he sent me a bill for $150 because that much was how much it cost to ship the boxes from Washington, D.C. suburbs to Los Angeles. And I bought a car, and I hit an 18-wheeler in less than 2 weeks. And that car was so gone. You did a new word for bot, like the airbags, like it was bad. It was very bad. Um, so um, yeah, I was
And
convinced I was just say that again.
how did that impact you moving to LA after finishing?
Well, like I just did it. Like, everyone thought it was crazy. Like, but at the same time, everyone was sort of impressed that I did it as well. Like, like I think both of these things, I guess there's some things in common. It's just sort of like, can you do it? And then just like sort of pushing yourself to do it. Um, because, when you're like 20, how old was I? 22, maybe a little bit older. And you like just move across the country. I don't know a single person out here. That's not true. I'm sure like 2 people, but like not well. But like, you just move it, like you just figure it out. Like you don't have all the answers. You have to take the first steps before you have all the answers. And I guess that's a reoccurring theme here. Like you just take the first steps, even though you don't have the answers. Because I came out here when I first was out in LA. I was attending a young professionals program up in Idlewild, which I don't think exists anymore. And I didn't know where I was going to move. I just knew that there was a really good youth hostel in Santa Monica, and that like they had a locker, so I had a place to put my clarinets. And like it just sort of came together to some degree. Like I came out here, and while I was at the training program, someone's like, "Do you want to rent a room in my house?" I was trying to figure it out. I remember being on the phone with my dad. I'm like, "Should I rent a room in this house?" He's like, "Are they going to make you sign a lease?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Rent a room in the house. You can move out whenever the hell you want to." How much are they charging you? At the time, I was like, they were charging me like $400 a month. It was in San Gabriel. And so I moved to San Gabriel, and I stayed in San Gabriel a lot longer than I was anticipating because I didn't anticipate totaling my car. Um, I had a job for like a day at the Hollywood Bowl, and then I totaled my car. I remember calling them because I was on the way to the job when my car got totaled. And I was like, "Just so you know, I'm not coming into work today or tomorrow or the day after that." Because I was like, my uncle helped me bought my car, and then um, like I don't know. I was just convinced I was going to turn Los Angeles public transportation into Philadelphia transportation, which was, of course, like very silly. But I was like, it was just the naive young person just thinking you're like, I'm going to force it into existence. And to be fair, there are lots of public transportation options in LA that people don't take advantage of and do work efficiently. Yeah, living primarily off of public transportation in Los Angeles is a way to feel very isolated. So I didn't have a car for a while, um, and I was trying to find work, which was difficult. And I went to go down to the strip mall down the street to see if I could apply for a job. And finally, like I got to a Subway, and I went to fill out the application, and I was planning on lying because like no one's going to hire me with a master's degree to work at a Subway restaurant. And then I realized I'd have to lie about what I was doing. Like I had to put something else. Like they had my ID, like they know what my actual birthday was. And I said, screw it. And like I put my master's degree, I put all my scholarship, I put I put all my awards, like I just put everything. I was just like, I'm pretty sure I got a 100% on the math section, like if someone gives you a 20, a dime and a quarter, how much money did they give you, sort of thing.
Right.
And the guy called me, and he was like, "I don't think you belong here." And I literally said, "I don't think you understand. I've done nothing but stare at the wall for 2 weeks." And he said, "Okay, you can start tomorrow." I didn't even interview me. He just made me come in and started. um, and I worked there for a while until I got a job doing sales at the Pasadena Playhouse, which is something I'd done in Philadelphia for other nonprofit performing arts groups. And then ultimately started doing business to business sales. It was a very organic process that happened over time. This was all while I was taking private lessons in clarinet and also teaching privately for clarinet.
Love that. And your third and final defining moment.
Those are the two biggest ones. I'm sure I'll think of it like later. I don't have I have both my parents. I haven't lost my parents yet. My family's still around. It's a small family. I don't have any kids, so I can't say the birth of my child or anything. Um,
All right. Well, then let's just jump into. I'll pick love. Let's choose love as our first topic. Then, how do you? What is love, Erica? What is love?
oof. What is love? Love is just comfort. Love is feeling like you're home. Love is just that sense of belonging, I'd say.
Got it. Who was your first love?
Oof. Um, Probably my college boyfriend. Yeah.
And how did that start? How did that end?
So you're not. Have you spent any time? Wait, how much time have you spent on the East Coast?
Uh, 18 years.
Okay, where? I can't remember. You told me. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm from Florida, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. So all right. So you would not. If you were from New York, you might be familiar with what I was talking about. But if you're from Florida, probably not. So in Philadelphia, there's this thing called the Mummers Parade and these Mummers Clubs, and they're very old school organizations where like it's very South Philadelphia, primarily Italian and Irish, and they put on the Mummers Day Parade in Philadelphia. It's just a very old school sort of historical like families that have lived there for generations clubs, and so the New Year's Day Parade is famous, and my friend was playing in one of the Mummers bands on New Year's Day. So they don't party the night before. They have to get up at 4 in the morning, but then they party New Year's Day in the evening. And I
Mm.
remember getting there. And so she's like, come with me to the party. So I went with her to the party. And I was just like, I don't think I've seen so many good looking Italian drunk guys in one place at one time ever in my entire life. Like, this is great. And ironically, I ended up meeting the Irish guy at the bar. And like, just we hit it off and took it from there. And there was just, a certain level of comfort and stuff. I mean, we had very different backgrounds, and I don't know if I would, like it's, I, there was a comfort level there that was good for me and stuff. And I think there was maybe a little bit of an insecurity on his part. If like being older, like I would have gone back and pushed it, be like, hey, like, let's work through this. This is like a stupid reason to break up. This is a stupid reason to do XYZ. But also like when you're that young and you're insecure, like maybe you just need time to grow up. So it's very hard to say like, you know, 20 years, having 20 to look up back on how you'd handle a relationship 20 years ago when you're both completely different people is kind of doesn't necessarily serve a purpose. But yeah, like I think I also was moving to Los Angeles, and I think the idea of like having someone who just like has the guts to just pack up all their stuff and just move across the country was just like like that's not a thing a lot of like people do. I mean, I did, but
What did
I
your
guess
what did your, what did your parents think about it, or what's your relationship with your parents like? Did they say anything about you
about the
getting
boyfriend or the moving to LA.
moving to LA, like just your whole life choices, I guess?
Um, so my mom did not approve of me moving to LA, like at all. Like that, and it's funny because I mean she's worked through whatever she needed to work through because she denies that that was a thing, but it was. I mean, she was not. I mean, she's never gonna see this, right? Like I have to figure. Yeah, she can. Like she was kind of mean to me. She was not the most. That was not the strong. My mom and I have a really good relationship now, but at the time she was not supportive. That's kind of an understatement. And
Can you
but I
elaborate on the story?
say what?
Can you elaborate more on this story?
I'm trying to figure out what's appropriate to share. She was just kind of obnoxious. She was just kind of obnoxious. She just told me like I had some money that was given to me at a certain point, and she's like, "Oh, you're a spoiled brat. You shouldn't use this money to do this." And so I was going to not do it. And then I was talking to somebody else who's like was like a mentor to me, and they were like, "So if this is something you really, really want to do, oftentimes people use money as an excuse. Like you can't use money as an excuse. Like figure out how much money you need to do it. And if you feel like set a goal and then save up the money you need to do it and then you do it. Like, don't use this like money as an excuse thing just because someone told you like you're a spoiled brat. And then I went and crunched the numbers and it was like, wait, no, I can afford to do this now. Like this isn't like I'll just do it now. So I mean, it was rough. I slept on an air mattress for like my first year in LA.
Mm.
But I think that my mom and I have a really good relationship now for the most part. I don't think we'd have the relationship that we have now if I hadn't if I had bent to what she wanted me to move back to Virginia, but not into her home, but into an apartment complex down the street where there's nothing for me. Like, it's like I remember reading the story to someone else, and they're like, "So your mom wants her cake. She wants her cake, and she wants to eat it too, right?" And there was like most people that were moving back towards their parents' town were moving back in with their parents. And my mom's like, "No, we had kids later in life. We're too old for this." It's like, wait, you want me to move back to Virginia, but you want to move back down the street, which where there's nothing for me, like nothing. If I'm going to not move west, I'll stay in Philadelphia because Philadelphia is a relatively inexpensive city compared to like any of the other major cities.
Do you what would you say to like the kids who don't have a good relationship with their mother, that are in high school and their mom
Oof.
just how would they go about building that relationship with their mom, or like if they wanted
Ooh.
a better relationship with their mom?
So what's kind of hard about like relationships is that like it's hard to see it when you're like 16, is that your relationships go through phases. Like you could have years where you're like really close with your mom, and then you could have years with your mom where you're like gonna kill each other, and then like I don't know who changes, or it's not worth psychoanalyzing like who was the one that changed or came to the realization. Like I Parents have a hard time. I don't remember. I mean, I remember being stressed when I moved to Philadelphia, um, but nothing like the stress that she exuded when I moved to LA after I finished 6 years in Philly. And so, like you have to realize that they're humans too. And like, I think when you're a parent, though, the dynamic when you have a child, like a child who's still a kid, and versus a child who's a parent, is that there's this, you have to stay strong as the parent. And so I think that sometimes, I mean, maybe now they're all into like gentle parenting. That wasn't like a thing. I don't think it was a thing when you were growing up, right? Like it definitely wasn't a thing when I was growing up. And so like, people, they don't necessarily share like what their concerns are, what their fears are, what their whatever thing is, and I think it's sometimes you have to, and I've learned this as a manager in sales, that like you have to give people room to make mistakes. And I think that's very difficult to do, especially if you care about someone a lot. And I'm not even sure it's necessarily a mistake. Like I
How
think
did
it
you
was
how did you deal with it though? Like when your mom was giving you all that stress, like how did you deal with your
I got a therapist. Who just like helped me talk it through. It was just sort of like, and it was just sort of like, okay, like this is, I'll just, I don't know, I just moved out here, and eventually over time, like it just became clear that, I basically over a period of time, it became clear that if I wanted to continue to pursue music, that I wasn't good enough to make it into like one of the top 11 orchestras in the United States. Like there's literally a total of like 40 really well paying clarinet jobs in the entire country. Like literally. Like you have to wait for someone to die. And then you have to audition with 1,000 other people. And I'm not being facetious. Like that's literally how competitive it is. And there are other jobs as a musician, but there's a huge gap in pay. So then they're like between 30 and 50 something. And then there's nothing in between. And then there's the 6-figure salaries. And it just sort of organically happened over time. I wasn't going to make the top 11, and the pay on the lower ones wasn't that good. So you have to do freelance work, and then it was just basically, it became clear that my music was going to be a business, and if I was going to do business, I might as well do an industry that like something I could actually make good money doing, where there's a little bit more. I mean, I've always done sales. Like sales has always been. It was clear that I was going to end up doing sales from like a young age. I was always like the kid who did the band fundraiser growing up and stuff, but where was I going with this?
well, let's go straight to the topic of money since we're talking about money. Tell us, how do you make money?
How do I make money? I'm kind of on sabbatical right now, which is kind of an interesting thing to say. I I am very fortunate in that I have worked really, really hard over the last 17, 18 years and built up some residual income from commissions because I've worked in 100% commission sales. And I didn't think I'd be able to live off of just my renewals. And then I got some music students out of nowhere, like out of nowhere, which has actually been boosting my income as well. But when I'm not on sabbatical, I have done business to business sales and intend to open a consulting firm to help tech companies get better at selling their services, not to investors, but to the businesses themselves. I've seen a pattern of tech companies where they learn how to sell their services to investors and then they pivot to sell to the businesses and they use the exact same sales script and it does not work. And I asked a mentor friend, I'm like, is it just me or is this a pattern I'm seeing? And his hands down, his words were, I remember them for the verbatim. He's like, hands down, 100% unequivocally, yes. Like this is a pattern. Like the tech companies, they work really hard on like mastering this pitch to get money from VCs, and then they don't know how to pivot to change their pitch for companies. Like there's tons of things they can do. There's tons of seminars they can go to. So, but it's seminars for selling your services to another business needs to be a little bit more customized.
I guess my question would be, you have, I guess, over 15 years just doing B2B sales.
Mm-hmm.
I think sales is it's pretty straightforward. You reach out to 100 people, maybe 3 people reach back to you, and maybe 1 person closes the deal. That's probably the general understanding. I guess my question is, once you actually close the deal, how do you maintain that relationship? Like you being in insurance and
Mm-hmm.
like how important is it? Like, is it important like after you get them to sign up to do that? Like, how important is it to keep in touch with them? How often do you keep in touch with them?
Mm-hmm.
Is that more important than actually closing the first sale, or
Well, you
what?
have to understand it depends so that's a sort of because you're familiar with my background, I do employee benefits. So because that's a renewal commission and half of your income is from your renewals, right? So and your residual income. So to clarify that, because in a lot of companies, once you sell it, like it's somebody else's job to keep the business on the books. So just to point that out, that there are plenty of jobs in sales where maintaining the relationship is no longer your responsibility. And so if you have no desire to do that part of the work, then look for that kind of job because it is 2 different skill sets. Um, but for me, there's sort of like an open enrollment annual renewal. I think when I was new with Aflac, I had like an Aflac franchise for people that are on here, the insurance company. I when I was newer in my career, I spent a lot of time nurturing my relationships with all of my clients and stuff. And I had really great retention on all of those clients. But there's a once you reach a certain point, you start to lose a return on your investment. And so you have to find like I could easily spend 40 hours a week just making sure all my clients are happy.
How
But like,
about for the kids? Just let's say your like kid is in high school
uh-huh,
and they want to do a band fundraiser.
okay,
Like they're doing their band fundraiser. What and like I say they want to raise for a trip to like
okay,
DC, something like that, and they need 10 grand.
okay.
And they need it in 90 days. What
All right, 10 grand is a lot. All right, I can tell you because I went to one of the best. My high school band program had stuff set up. So like, don't try and do everything yourself. Like there are people like don't recreate the reel from scratch. Like
Yeah, let's
and
say there's a group of like 30 kids and the teacher,
okay.
like what do they do if they
All
want
right,
to
so
raise?
you'll laugh at this because you're now in California and you're from Florida originally, but no one in Northern Virginia blinked an eye. So my high school band, when we did exactly these things, okay? So we would get oranges trucked in from Florida in December. We would sell these massive crates of really fresh oranges, which out here everyone thinks is crazy, but like it was great because you can go and you show up with box candy. Then you buy the box candy because you don't want to hurt the kids' feelings, but you don't really want the box candy, right? But like crate of really fresh oranges that were trucked in straight from Florida. So like people actually don't mind spending $20. I have no idea what the profit margins was, but I just go to door to like that. The thing about selling oranges is that oranges are perceived of as a commodity. Like I mean, it's you don't have to sell like why this orange is better than another orange. It's just like, look, this is an orange. It's really good, and you're going to support the community. And I would go through my neighborhood, and so they knew I was part of the neighborhood, and so they wanted to support me. Um, and so you have to just do it, but I mean, there were years when I sold so many oranges that like the back of the minivan, like the suspension, like the car was lower to the ground because there was that many pounds of oranges in the car. Because so the oranges are trucked into Virginia, and then my parents would pick me up and help me deliver the oranges to the neighborhood. But I would paid for many band trips doing that. Yeah.
So you would recommend them selling a product, whether it's chocolate, oranges, and they go to
Oh,
and then they
okay.
go to the store
Yeah.
and look
Okay.
great.
So my mom used to say because my high school band it's one of the best high school band programs in the country, and my mom's like, I've never seen an organization do such a good job of fundraising like at anywhere. So you shake it up, like you don't want to like you can I mean you like it's orange. Okay, so we sell oranges in December, but we don't sell oranges like every time of year. We sell oranges in December, like, right? But there was one day a year, they called it Tag Day. I don't remember where the name came from, and we just would go door to door. It was the same day every year. It was like the Sunday before school started or something. And we went door to door and asked for money for the band program. But the band program was well known because the band program, like we had 4,000 kids, 4,000 kids in the school and 400 kids in the marching band. It was a massive program. And the people knew the band program, like it was kind of famous. So once, so we do oranges in December, but on Tag Day we just went door to door and asked for money. And it was so Tag Day was so well known in the area that we would show up and there would be checks taped to the door. Like people left the house, but they knew it was Tag Day and they just left checks for us. And what was so impressive is that at the end of every street, there'd be a band parent with an envelope, and so the band could tell you after collecting like thousands and thousands of dollars, they could tell you how many dollars came from each street. So the next year when we went back to do it again, we'd hit the streets that gave us the most money first.
I like that.
Yeah, they were on a because they told us specifically not to repeat this, but I'm not saying the name of my high school, so I can say it. Yeah, one year we collected $26,000 in one day.
Okay.
That's what like that just really well organized. There's like, okay, we're putting 4 kids in each car, and here's a map, these are the streets you have to go to, here's an envelope for this street, here's an envelope for this street, here's an envelope for this street. And they kept track of like they knew where every penny came from out of that $26,000. I mean,
So
it's also it's a good neighborhood. To be fair, like you couldn't do that in a poor neighborhood. I'm realizing I'm coming from a place of privilege as I'm telling this story. Like it's a combination of the two.
no, but that's good though. I mean, you guys had like a sales strategy, like putting the kids to work. I don't think a lot of schools even understand how to do that, or
Yeah,
even are doing that.
it's true.
So that's great. Any money tips on the side for about kids who want to make a side hustle?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, live below your means. Like I wasn't planning
What were you doing in high school?
in high school. Well, it just depends. I mean, I was told to get good grades so I could get a scholarship, so that was my focus. So did I make a lot of money in college, in high school? No. I was definitely coming from a place of privilege where I didn't really have tons of stuff I needed, but I could still. That doesn't mean you can't. That doesn't mean you can't, right? So if you want to make a high side hustle in high
Even like
school,
even not maybe not even high school, maybe just a recent grad.
okay.
Like if we were to go back and you came back to LA for the first time instead of applying for a subway job and you wanted to do another side hustle with the knowledge,
Oh,
what would you do?
okay. All right. Actually, sorry. So that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true because I did do fundraising, and sometimes I would get paid commissions on the fundraising. Like it wasn't all like it wasn't always for my high school band. Like I did other stuff where I was also paid commission. So that's not into. And even in college. So when I was in college, I got jobs. Oh gosh, I had a lot of different sales jobs. I did fundraising for the Kimmel Center, which is like the Disney Hall, but Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Orchestra. and I would call. So you get paid like, I don't know, $8 an hour, whatever the minimum wage was at the time, plus commission. And I don't ask me what the commission was, but I would just call. Like I was selling something that I really believed in, like go see the arts in concert. Go see the arts. Like you're going to enjoy this. It's going to be a respite from your week. Like it's you this is something that you will enjoy, that you need to consciously choose to set time aside for yourself to enjoy. And let me tell you about how amazing these artists are that are coming up in this program. And be like, so it's Yo-Yo Ma's playing, and then we've got this jazz artist, and we've got this group, and we've got this group, and like people just assumed I was a volunteer. And I mean, they were, yes, I was paid a commission. They were also very happy to pay me a commission. I remember the second I did it for 2 years. And when I left, because I was moving to LA for the second year, I remember the manager just freaking out. She's like, losing Erica is like losing 8 employees. But you just get on the like enthusiasm sells. Like if you have to, obviously don't sell anything that you don't see like value in. But enthusiasm goes a really long way. So I sold subscriptions to concert series. I got people to sign up for credit cards at the Philly Stadium. So if you signed up for a credit card, you get a free t-shirt. So I don't necessarily believe in like it didn't, for me, I wasn't selling the value of a credit card. It was like, look, if you sign up for a free t-shirt, you get a credit card. And like, do you need another credit card? Yeah, I mean, I didn't ask them that. I just sort of said, hey, like it was not a hard sell. It was a lot of drunk people who wanted a free t-shirt. So I made that the first year I did it, I made actually really good money. I hustled like crazy. And then I also learned that to make friends with the people that work the concessions, and I would give the people that work concessions free t-shirts, and they'd give me hot dogs and ice cream sundaes. It was like the best summer ever.
I love it. So enthusiasm, make friends with people so you get some hookups.
You like just hustle, like just like energy is contagious. I mean, and then sometimes like you just have to fake the energy. Like I would work so hard during the baseball game is a long time. So to run around screaming like a crazy person, get your free t-shirt. Like by the end of like after 2 hours, there were games where I was so exhausted that I just started to fake a New York accent. Like I can't fake a New York accent. Like I'm not an actor. I have no accents. Like I don't even remember what came out of my mouth. I just remember being so slap happy silly that like it was just something to keep myself amused so I could continue like going out and like talking to people and stuff. And yeah, I mean I did that. So I did the credit cards at Dodger Stadium. I did concert sales. I organized for my sorority. I had a music sorority that I was in. It was technically a women's fraternity. Don't ask. I can't answer the question. And I organized this fundraiser for bumper stickers. Like I went to the dean of the music school, and they like approved this Temple University music bumper sticker, which I don't think they previously had. And like, I don't know. I just told people, I'm like, look, it's for a women's organization, and it's part of the music school, and it's Temple, and it's $1. And like people just bought them just because, I mean, it was a charity thing, right? So, and the money was going to a good cause, but like I think people just give me $1 just to like, okay, go away,
I love it.
like,
I love it.
but I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I sold tons of stuff. I've always sold stuff.
I think everything you gave was really good.
Okay.
Let's move on to the last topic, which is
Okay.
education.
Okay.
What would you say to the kids who are like, I'm over school, I don't want to go to college?
That is a hard one. That is a hard one for me to answer. Because I come from a family that is very much into education, like very much values education. And I'm working in a field where like my nobody, like right now I put my master's in clarinet on my resume. I've had a weird sort of journey where I put it on just because I didn't have that much because I was a kid, so I had my degrees, and then I had to take it off the resume because people were convinced that like I was just pursuing this as a part-time job while I was pursuing clarinet. And now I'm finally old enough that I can put my master's of clarinet back on my resume, and people are like, what? That's so cool. Like it always stands out. People like, it's one of the first things people ask me. They're like, you have not 1 but 2 degrees in clarinet. I'm like, that's correct. Yes. So I'm over school. Don't be I can't, and it's not even fair. Like, I'm not even a place where I can speak of of expertise, because like college was expensive when we went, or did yeah, and now it's even more expensive, right? So I think some things. All right, so if we have to weigh out the pros and the cons here, just be aware that there are some careers that you might want to pursue that will require you to get like that you have to have a degree, or that you might want to go, like maybe later you decide you want to go back and you do like this job requires a master's in business. Well, if you already knocked out, like it's a much more intimidating than when they're 18. Like there's definitely this intimidation factor, and I don't know why it exists. I just know it does, just from friends that never got college degrees and then were horribly intimidated to go back later. um So if someone came to me and said, "I'm over school, I don't want to go to college," I'd be like, "Okay, so what do you want to do? Like like give me like 5, 10, like tell me about things, what excites you? What do you want to do with your life, so forth and so on," and see if they've actually tried a bunch of things, because you don't really know what you like. Like I didn't think I was going to go into sales. Like yeah, I don't know, like the writing was on the wall since forever, but like that was never like a thing, but I just tried a bunch of things and it just organically happened. Um, have a plan. Like if you're not going to go to college, like don't do nothing. Like you have
Mm.
to do something. Like you have to do something with your life. So if it's not going to college, then like you're going to get out of high school and you already decided how you're going to hustle. Like, I mean, you can get, like, there's nothing with job, for example, like getting a job at Foot Locker, like out of high school. Like, there's okay. But like, if you're going to get a job at Foot Locker, get a job at Foot Locker for one of two reasons. Get a job at Foot Locker because you really enjoy retail sales and you have intentions of climbing the ladder within Foot Locker, and you want to be a regional area manager, because those guys are actually make really good money. If you're in charge of like 10 different Foot Locker stores, those guys make six-figure salaries. All right. But do it because you really want, like you enjoy customer service and you enjoy sales, or do it because it's an ends to a means. So you get that job at Foot Locker right out of high school, and you're using every moment when you're not at Foot Locker to pursue a business path. But if you don't know and you can find somebody to give you scholarship money, then like just don't do nothing, because that you like time is everything. Like you can't get time back. And so, and you, if you don't know what you want to do, just try things and try things and try things, because eventually you will try something and you will be like, wow, this is way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Is that how you kind of went down your path? You just started trying things, or you always?
Yeah, so when I started doing the insurance sales, it was supposed to be a part-time thing and to support my clarinet career. And then I started winning these vacations. And I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. Like I like free trips to free places and like eating and drinking on people's other dimes. Um, and and then you start to actually realize, like, oh, all right, this is actually fun. Like it's, like what is, if this is where I am in my career and I'm winning free trips and that's cool, but like what would happen if I actually took this part-time thing seriously? Like what if I really mastered my craft in sales? Like what does that mean? And then getting really good at it and starting to like, I think the hardest part, that stepping away from music, is all right, so when you get into music, like in your high school band or whatever, elementary school band, like there's just kids play instruments. And then you get in middle school, it's a little bit smaller, and you get into high school, and depending on your high school, it may or may, get competitive or not. I mean, I'm very fortunate I came from a place of privilege. But then outside of my high school, then there were like even more competitive things that I auditioned for and got into. And and then you get into college and like the conservatory level, and like you're surrounded by people who are so passionate about what they do, and like and you just have so much in common with these people, and like they're just such interesting, fascinating people. And when you step away from that, you're like, I'm never going to have that community again. But then you get into sales and you get higher and higher and higher and higher up, and the community gets smaller and smaller the higher up you get. And you find people who are like crazy passionate about entrepreneurship, who can talk about like business all day long. And it's hard to like if you had told me 20 years ago that I would be talking to you about entrepreneurship and tech startups and like how like they don't, you know,
Marathons.
and run and marathons, right? Like there's no way, like you just have no, like there's no way to predict that I'd be running marathons and that I would be like I want to be with my new company, like I want to be the company that venture capitalists call after they've invested in a company and say, come, you know, I need you to spend some time with these people. I need you to figure out like what is their sales pitch working? If not, how can we change it? What can, you know, what, how do we want to revamp this whole everything to do it? Because the smaller companies don't necessarily have the funds for a VP of sales, or like they hire salespeople and they think the salespeople are going to be able to figure it out, and that's just a joke. Like it's really silly to think that you can hire a salesperson at $20 an hour and that they're going to figure it out on their own. Like they will, they'll figure it out how to do it at a substandard level. But if they had someone who was like, let me show you how to do this, can you mirror this at something that's 4 times better, the chances that they'll be doing it 3 times better are probably really good. They just have to see someone else do it.
I love it. Any last words, tips for the kids, or do you want to share your last defining moment?
This interview. No, I'm joking. No, yeah, I think I'm trying to. What else is there? Live within your means. Live within your means. I it shocks me how many people live, even people who make really good money, live paycheck to paycheck. And that's just a really stressful way to live your life. And I was just raised in a family that was always self-employed. So that meant, I mean, I never felt it, but by definition, they're self-employed. So that means their incomes are like this. But if you live conservatively and you save money, like there are so many things in your life that can be really, really stressful. And so many people live with money being a major stressor in their lives. And I think that's something I've learned is how much happier you can live when you don't do that. And that it's not a skill that a lot of people are like, you get money, oh, it's payday, let's go spend money. Like, like most 90% of the population was not raised to not do that. So if you want to be happy, don't spend all your money.
Live below your means, guys. I love it. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
Oh, good question. Thank you. My Instagram account is probably the best. My handle is slow but steady _MVP. That's my public Instagram account. Slow but steady _MVP. Thank you. On Instagram. All right, cool.
There you go, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Before I forget, if you guys are going through anything and you do feel like you need someone to talk to, if you have depression or suicidal thoughts, do text home to 741-741. That is a national helpline. It actually works. Other than that, if you are interested in jumping on the community hotline to share your personal experiences, just like Erica, feel free to send me a message. And thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time.